In progress.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the September 7th meeting of Sunbury Services Committee. Can I get a roll call, please?
Damon Capel.
Here.
John Grumney.
Here.
Cory Knapp.
Here.
3 present.
Assuming everybody had a chance to check out the minutes from our last meeting on August 3rd, I'm going to make a motion that we approve those minutes. Second. Roll call.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
Cory Knapp.
Yes.
John Grumney.
Yes.
3 yeas.
All right, I don't see anybody anywhere for visitors, so we'll go on to our unfinished business section, and that starts with the establishment of a stormwater utility program. I know we talked briefly about this off and on over the last couple of years, but what are you bringing for us tonight, Wes?
So we prepared a memorandum just to kind of break this topic down because it's not overwhelming task to take on, but certainly quite a few components. So just to go over that memo, if you could pull that up in your packet. Basically, the first page, just a general description. I think we're all aware of how it works and what it's for. Really moving on to what task one would be basically a feasibility study, which would be a little bit deeper dive into it, get a sense of the whole program, the framework, potential ERU, a rate, just really present more detailed information to see if you want to move forward with it. And with that, task two would be development or determination of your equivalent residential unit. And we did a little bit of homework there. I was just going to share. This has a couple components. What's down in the formula section under item 5, task 2 is basically how an ERU is calculated. And what that means is it's just the, average impervious area for a residential unit, essentially. Those typically range around 3,000 square feet. You see them range about 2,700 square feet, maybe up to 3,200, depending on the community. But you can calculate that for a community, take all the residential property and measure the impervious area, which is rooftop, driveways, sidewalks, patios, and then you divide by the number of residential units essentially, or kind of skip that detail and just go to a flat rate for a residential unit that we feel is, but it is good to have a little bit of a backup calculation on how we establish that. That said, I just took a look at, if you were interested, in some communities around the Columbus area on what they charge for an equivalent residential unit. Overall, there was a study, 2020, the Ohio median fee was $3.50 per month per ERU. So a single family home would pay $3.50 a month, 12 months, be the average. Mount Vernon's at $4. Their ERU was 2,900 square feet. Marysville was $6. Lancaster, $7.64. Gahanna was $4.33. New Albany was $4.17. So in that $4 to $7 range seems to be just some of the surrounding communities around Sunbury. So that gives you an idea of kind of quote market rate of what the stormwater ERU charge per month is.
Last, I might be completely lost, but were those numbers in the packet here? I couldn't find the
No, I
comparison.
just noted those
Okay.
down here. I didn't provide those in the memo, just did some research quickly and wanted to get a sense of a few communities around the area. So task 2 is basically developing that ERU. Task 3 is really taking a look at what the costs are, what the revenues that we're going to need to fix things. So you basically take a look at all the stormwater infrastructure and make a list of items that need to be repaired, concepts and cost opinions. Item 4 is a typical component for stormwater utility. It's the creation of a credit program. And some communities will allow residential to apply for a credit, and some just don't allow residential and only keep the credit towards your commercial industrial properties. Meaning if a homeowner puts rain barrels in, or they do pervious pavement, they do take the driveway out and it's a pervious paver, there's things you can do on the residential side. Typically, that can create some administrative work, to
Mhm.
do with the residential credit program. Or you can just treat the credit program more for your Kroger parking lot type facilities where it could have a bigger impact, and so your commercial industrial site. So that's just a little bit of a sidebar on the credit program, but that's basically you create a system there to allow a reduction in the ERU charge per month.
I would imagine-
Based on if they're capturing stormwater and infiltrating that and not running it off and creating more need for stormwater
Mhm.
infiltration. That's how that works.
I was just gonna say, I bet a lot of the improvements that would give a credit would probably run afoul of some of the HOAs and a lot of the developments, wouldn't it?
Could be, yeah, the residential component gets complicated when you're dealing with it for like a large parking lot or an industry or a commercial. It's easier to work with them, and they have more room, and it can be more effective for the community to reduce the stormwater.
And Wes, you may have said this, but these fees, they don't fluctuate month to month, correct? Based on how
They're
much rain we
fixed.
receive, they're fixed. Okay.
They're fixed based on a council ordinance, just like a sewer or water rate.
Okay.
So unless you change it by ordinance or you have a percent increase per year, that's been done, some small percent increase per year. That would match kind of a construction index because your capital program costs are going to be climbing. So you kind of want those ERUs to climb as well.
And is this to alleviate some of the financial pressure we have on the sewer system that's currently handling kind of all of this now? So in order to make improvements to handle this volume, we need to collect a separate fee to help fund
Correct.
that.
So just
Yeah.
basic statement on stormwater utilities. Stormwater itself is essentially an unfunded piece of the infrastructure. You typically rely on a general fund or other sources to pay for that. Sewer, your sanitary sewer has certain uses that you can do sanitary sewer repairs, work at the treatment plant, when storm sewers are kind of an unfunded piece of the infrastructure, similar to a roadway. Your pavement that comes out of general fund a lot of times, unless you have specific funds collected for roadway. But so that's why a lot of communities are doing a stormwater utility, is to collect funds to specifically take care of storm sewers, catch basin, ditch cleaning, any conveyance component in the system that's going to convey stormwater.
Okay, thank you.
Just to finish off, so task 5 is basically the formation of an advisory committee, and this is an important component of any stormwater utility. Fee is the public outreach, the education, why it's being done, how it's calculated, to conduct public hearings, present all that information. There's a lot of flyers, and a lot of cities will, as they bill for that, some will bill monthly, some bill quarterly, just to reduce the amount of billing required, and they'll have a flyer that goes in with the billing to re-explain what that stormwater utility is being used for. And so this component kind of addresses all those different pieces. And 6 would be the implementation of all the above. So the purpose of the memo, again, was simply to kind of break down the different tasks and scope of services required to implement the stormwater utility. And next steps would be to probably move forward with task 1, which is a feasibility study, to just try to frame things, present more detail, potential ERU cost, and so on. So I will pause for questions on that. It's kind of a big topic.
Start to finish, how long would a process like this take from starting today, talking about this to implementation?
If it was, I would probably plan for 6 months, 6 to 9 months of just information being developed, the public outreach, and so on. So I would probably plan for 6 to 9 months.
What do you need from us to move forward with a potential feasibility study?
We could prepare a task order proposal for that and get started. I could basically just take task one and break that down into what that would be with a scope, schedule, budget as the next step.
Any other questions?
I had shared, Mayor, just a few of the fees around the area. I did some research this afternoon. Mount Vernon, $4, Maryville, $6, Lancaster, $7.64, Gahanna, $4.33, and New Albany, $4.17. So that $4 to $6 a month per equivalent residential units kind of quote the market rate, for a stormwater utility. Certainly another good source for matching funds for grants as well as you develop a pot for stormwater infrastructure.
It's good to know. Mhm. So before we move on, does anybody have any concerns about potentially moving forward with the feasibility study? Okay. All right, next item is the trash hauling contract. Where are we on that?
So just an update for you on where we are. So in your packet page 7, we had reached out to the existing contractor, asked them if they could articulate in writing the reasons why they could not fulfill the terms of the original contract, which is a 2-year extension with a maximum increase of 2% each year, which was where council wanted to be. So you do have a written response from the business. They're basically just identifying the additional costs associated with operating a business of this type post-COVID. Well, I don't know the word post-COVID, but after at least the initial onset of COVID. They are proposing a 10% increase locked in over the 2-year period. So they put that in writing. The last time it was basically a phone conversation that I had with them. So one, I just wanted to get this back in front of you. I have had a chance to talk to our legal counsel. They've indicated that they would like us to, again, just introduce the topic this evening. He continues to have conversations with outside counsel. We'll prepare to come back to the council meeting in 2 weeks with a more definitive strategy for moving forward.
FYI only for right now.
FYI only at this point. Yep.
New business, we have fiber in the community. So I know a couple months ago, I think Murray was on that meeting on the fiber optics.
Yeah, Horizon. It was, yep.
Cindy Cooper. So it looks like we've got a little bit more information now. Can you review that?
Actually, that is a great segue. Because that's an example of a private company that came forward that they were interested in expanding fiber in the city of Sunbury. They've gone quiet since our initial conversation with them. And I think one of the things that we've maybe come to appreciate a little bit more is that we as a city could wait to hear from the private market in terms of what would be the best strategy for moving forward, with the understanding that, a private partner is going to identify what's in their best interest, maybe not necessarily what's in the best interest of the city. So with that in mind, staff had reached out to this particular company, Deep Fiber Strategies, about getting a proposal in front of council for consideration. Again, I don't anticipate we're asking for any action this evening, but the proposal here would be to take a more strategic look at what it is the city of Sunbury wants out of fiber and what it needs in order to meet the needs of its citizens and businesses. So you have a proposal in front of you that is aimed at trying to accomplish that. In terms of the product itself, this company is proposing that they would undertake a strategic conference. I think they call it a strategic conference session, where we would identify some key stakeholders, businesses, residents, others, identify what the options might be in terms of providing fiber to residents and businesses, and also then trying to determine what it is that the city would want out of that. Do we want to, for example, would we want to be in a position where the city could own and operate a fiber system? And again, I'm not suggesting that that's where we would be, but the conference would kind of help us identify what the options might be and help us begin to prioritize what we might want to do. Owning and operating a fiber system is one option. Some communities do that. Other communities basically install the infrastructure and lease out the facilities along the way. There could be a variety of kind of in-between options, if you will. So this proposal basically isn't saying what the outcome would be. It basically is talking about getting us to a point where we could be able to make a recommendation on that. The cost of the proposal is $36,000 for them to help engage us, and then also at the end develop for us a desktop design of what that system needs to look like to deliver whatever it is that we decide is our priority. Recognizing that the desktop design, is not the final design. I mean, you would need some additional construction if we decided to move forward with that. So this is kind of the high level, first level analysis. And then in terms of timing, if the city thought that if council thought that this was a good idea, and we engaged the consultant, would anticipate that it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 months to get from the beginnings to, again, a plan that we would be able to get back in front of council. At the end of the day, the value of doing something more strategic, it will help the city become, quote, a smarter city. I mean, it can help with respect to, public safety, with respect to transportation, mobility, issues. Just any of the services that the city provides may be able to provide in a more, in a smarter and more strategic way.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Would you be able to provide so I see those, like some of those things, like improve infrastructure, ability to attract and retain, things like that. But I guess in layman's term for me, could you tell me what a fiber network actually does? I mean, when you say a smarter city, is that meaning I guess I don't know exactly what that means. It's other than these higher level type of, it just makes it, I don't know what that means.
Well, I mean, the easiest one is, the traffic signals in your community could be more carefully aligned with each other to move traffic either faster or more efficiently or safer. I mean, you could decide kind of what the outcome is that you want. And you've got a network in place, a fiber network in place that then is connected to these signals, and they're all working together to kind of achieve whatever that ultimate outcome might be. On the safety side, it might be, in terms of data management, collection, reporting. Maybe it's just how the police department uses the data that's gathered through, sensors that might be around the community or whatever. Again, there could be all kinds of different outcomes. And I'm not trying to say that we'll know all of them when we're done, but we'll have a sense of what we think would be.
I'll give you a couple others that I think are probably a little bit further down the line. But if you think smart car technology, like self-driving cars aren't necessarily just hey, load the software and you can drive wherever. Think of this Route 33 right now. If you drive up and down Route 33 between Dublin and Marysville, every 200 yards, you've got a smart 5G pole that's connected to fiber underneath the ground that is both videoing cars, making sure that the proximity is right and it's tracking kind of everything. Now that sounds a little bit far out, right? But some of the more practical things are just attracting jobs, technology jobs, job classifications that we don't have the ability to do. One would be hospitals. So they need redundant fiber to be able to transmit images of, MRI size files back and forth between hospitals. And if there's a power outage or a line cut, they need to be able to make sure that they've got a line in the front door and the back door and it never is shut down. data-driven jobs, anything like architecture firms, CAD drawings, those types of things where they need high throughput. Those are probably some of the more practical, like today we cannot do feasibly on scale. But one thing that we're definitely out of the gate right now, if we don't pursue this on our own, I think it's just like hospitals in general. That will probably be the front runner of the reasons that we should.
Gotcha.
And back to Darrell's original point, we did meet with some private firms that do this, but we really don't want to be beholden to what the private sector is saying. Hey, we're going to take a line up Route 3 and run it into Kingston Township and connect, Camping World or something like that to a data center. When we really want to be able, this network designs proprietary software. It kind of is like water finding its own level. So it takes every single postal address that we have, the GIS information, and it actually makes it connect and provides probable costs and materials needed to ensure that every single residential address, including future growth areas, have redundant fiber all the way through our community.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So again, the point of tonight's meeting is to introduce you to this proposal, get you thinking a little bit about, how high of a priority might this be for the community, for council. If you've got some additional questions, I can certainly circle back with the consultant to get more answers for you. But anyway, that's largely what we're hoping to do here. And I know, Murray, you and I were just talking about the district level planning. And although that we don't have addresses out there at the moment, if that's something that we want to be thinking more strategically about, now's a good time for us to think about how do we incorporate, fiber and fiber assets, into the infrastructure that we're going to, extend out to the interstate. Again, not that we'll have all the detail, but we'll again begin to develop a framework about what we want and then be smarter about, as new developments come on board, how to implement the fiber component.
That's a good point. I mean, the right-of-way piece, the utilities that are actually in the ground is something we've never accounted for before. And it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to do if you're accounting for it on the front end. And if you think, like, if you look at a typical cross-section of right-of-way in Sunbury Parkway, even if it's a sketch plan, right now fiber is not listed. Like maybe it's 2 feet, but it's not in the 150, 200 foot model right now. If you move that, you're moving bike paths, you're moving electrical lines, you're moving sewer lines, you're moving. If you get it right now, it's going to be a lot less expensive and a lot easier to do, especially when we're talking about connecting areas outside of town that will develop, guaranteed.
That's also true of our built environment and the scarcity of right of way and being able to at least reserve some of that for a public purpose as opposed to private purposes. We're our right of ways under pressure from everybody that would love to be able to fiber something up or connect two buildings together, things like that. So this would allow a more coherent approach to that.
And just to clarify, you don't need anything from us tonight. It's just informational purposes.
Yeah, again, or if there's any feedback, we'll take it, but no action item.
I'm inherently geeky enough to find it very, very interesting. I look forward to seeing what we can do. All right. Next update is the 2023 street maintenance program. Not surprised to see South Miller Drive highlighted on this map.
So we prepared a diagram there, a map indicating the streets that we are recommending.
Page 22 in the packet.
Page
22 in the
page
packet.
22 in the packet. Just to go over those real quick. South Miller, and then in the area of Fox Trail, Raccoon, Chipmunk, Cottontail, Woodchuck. Those, and Evening Street and Crowd Drive. I know that's not a heavily traveled one, but certainly in poor condition. And then we included Walnut Street, the entire length. I know there have been a few repairs there recently. We obviously wouldn't take anything up that's been repaired, but just looking at the condition of that particular street. First cut on a list there to consider. We did run some cost estimates on this. We are looking for all those streets combined, 1.1 million would be a construction cost. That has a 15% contingency on it. And an initial cut on the funding strategy scenario with OPWC would be 370,000 grant, 130,000 loan for a total of 500. Reason that we're doing that, when you take the loan money over the total OPWC, if you add the 370 and the 130, that's 500,000. The 130 divided by the 500 is 26%. So when you hit 25% of your OPWC request as a loan, then you get additional points for that. So it's a 0% interest. Pay that back over the design life of the improvement, which for pavement, we typically put 15 years. But if you want to pay it off next year, which I know Kathy's done that in the past, within a year or two or three has paid that down. So simply there to pick up a few more points, that loan amount. And then the balance of 600,000 would be local cash and the engineering's to be determined on top of that. So I'll pause there. That's first cut. I know we've kind of talked and collected ideas. We can certainly scale that back. Just wanted to get the flavor. We did do research. We broke down District 17. That 370 was right in line with an average request from last year. So we feel like we're not too high and not too low. And then with that loan money in there with additional points, we feel like this would be a competitive ask. And knowing that the city hasn't received funds for 2 years, I believe the last
Feels like longer.
3. It might have been, is it? No,
I think it's 2.
2. That will be in a better position there as well. So thoughts on the initial list?
Would this be able to address some of the flooding on South Miller? South Miller is the one that has the flooding, correct?
Yeah, behind Kroger.
Would that be able to
Some of
address
the-
that flooding?
The flooding?
Yeah, on South Miller.
Yeah, we put a placeholder in. There's a section of storm sewers there right behind Kroger that collect, and it goes to a storm sewer to the detention basin on the other side of Pizza Hut. And so we have a placeholder in there at 25,000. What I want to talk with Steve further about is having Fee Corp televise that sewer just to see if it's got some debris or sediment in it, kind of blocking that. But that's where we think that's why that's occurring. The rest of South Miller is serviced by a 30-inch storm sewer. So we don't anticipate any other problems. It's just in that one area. So we don't know exactly what the issues there. We put a placeholder in, then there's an overall contingency. And knowing that historically hasn't been there, we think it might be either a partially collapsed pipe or some sediment buildup. So hopefully a good cleaning will take care of that.
Thank you.
So yeah, we did have a placeholder to answer your question.
I like what you presented here. What are the highest priority roads in this package? God forbid we don't get OPWC funding again. What needs done?
South Miller certainly could use some attention. And Walnut Street, if we were to scale that back, could probably be another series of point repairs on some of the bad areas. And then the Cottontail, Raccoon, Chipmunk, Fox Trail, Woodchucks, some of those we're seeing quite a bit of cracking, block cracking. You kind of want to catch that with a mill and fill before it totally fails. And then we're looking at a full depth replacement. So I would probably do South Miller and the Animal Streets and portions of Walnut. Evening and Crowell, again, point repair on Crowell. Evening, just, yeah, the condition on the one side was getting pretty bad and it's a small section. Those are my thoughts.
What do you need from us?
Just, well, so next steps, this application is due the beginning of November, gives us plenty of time to kind of absorb this. If the local cash amount of 600's okay, we'll start preparing the draft OPWC application, and there's a council action required, and keep things moving there as far as the application to be ready for a submittal early November.
Is the Walnut Street repair, is that a full depth?
It's a mill and fill with point repair. So we have 10 or 20% of the area where we have full depth repair, and then it's just a mill and fill on the balance.
For the next services meeting, could you maybe put together a couple of pictures of point repair, mill and fill and full depth? Just to show, I'm not
Show
sure
the
if
difference on.
other services members
Sure.
are familiar with the terminology.
Okay. And we'll have all the costs finalized by then. So they're final now, but we'll take a second look, and
By the next services meeting?
I can give a few pictures of what we would consider would require a full depth replacement and what would require a mill and fill. The other option we thought about is crack sealing, you know, including some crack sealing as part of the program, but OPWC doesn't tend to look at that as a you know, maintenance item that you should be taking care of on an annual basis. So, but we have done that in the past. I recall on an application or two that we've included some crack sealing.
So we would look at doing that separate if needed, or something
I would
clear on it.
suggest that separate, but I would strongly suggest that we get an annual crack sealing
Mhm.
program going. I'll work with Steve and Daryl on that.
Okay, any other questions on that? And my last item is traffic signals, and I saw no materials on traffic signals, so this is new to me. Although I see a bunch of them
So,
hanging.
so this was, Mayor, this was the item I think you just wanted to add, that maybe there's something going on with our traffic.
Oh, the timing. That's
Yeah.
right. that's
Yeah,
right.
so
I did see that.
I've been a few residents, and also I've witnessed it with like my own eyes. Something is not right with our traffic signals. I can't tell you exactly what. Can't put my finger on it. I feel like they're all interconnected and something is out of sync. So the UDF Route 3 light, the Cherry Street, probably the most normal one is the Cherry Street 3637 right down near the main intersection. That's probably like the mothership, and everything else is kind of out of sync from there. Miller and Cherry, so right by the Wendy's and McDonald's, and then also on Kinder Parkway. I know we ripped out some lines, like in our pavement repair, there was some traffic stuff going on. I also took into account that bus routes and school changes have changed, but there's oftentimes the lights are either going through their turn signal too quickly, or they're extending way too long where there's a period of no traffic on some of the main thoroughfares that are going through. I think it's worth that we have CT do some sort of full analysis of that corridor, because the reason I bring it up is we're also talking about major capital improvements related to, the traffic impact study that was done from the for the high school based on a few years ago. So I'd hate to be basing it based on bad data and current traffic flows if we haven't done everything in our power to sync up the lights and getting them as smart as possible.
The only thing I'll add is, so we are preparing a proposal kind of breaking down what the mayor just said into a few parts. So one part is that, current just short-term fix to really take a look, quite a few signals that are interconnected with radio right now. So something may not be optimized or functioning correctly. We want to identify that. We can work with MP Dory or one of the contractors that the city works with on a regular basis. The bigger picture there is, you know, to propose new traffic counts on a lot of the streets. Something else going on is with all the developments coming in, you know, each development has its own traffic impact study, and we feel the need as well to weave that information. I mean, the high school did a traffic impact study. Kirk's Creek, the Foreman property, is going to be doing a traffic impact study. We've had some done on the Pulte properties, the Rolling Hills, Magnolia Park, et cetera, is to really weave all that information together so we have a better comprehensive view of what's going on and how to guide the developments a little bit better as they come in. So really, we're going to break that down into a short-term fix on anything that's, you know, quote, not working or can be optimized, and then to a longer-term picture of traffic counts, even moving into Sunbury Parkway and, you know, the need for a northern bypass potentially as we consider. Because when you think about Cherry Street from where Sunbury Parkway is going to connect to State Route 3, you know, a 5-lane section's about all that's gonna, you know, you with turn lanes at the intersections, you can't really, there's physically just not enough room to make that into a larger roadway. So that's going to require another network. So it kind of starts to push in that direction as well with information and planning. If that helps, that's kind of the scope of what we're thinking about.
Mr. Grumney just informed me that I got overexcited and skipped an agenda item here. So the funding application for the pump station generators.
That was just an opportunity that recently came up with Ohio EPA. What they have is a program that they're doing principal forgiveness on a loan up to $50,000 for standby power, either at a treatment facility or a pump station. So we just quickly prepared an application. If you remember, the generators at the pump stations were part of the current wastewater plant contract. So that portion of the project was, I think it was 230,000 plus 236,000. So what this application does is it applies for the 236 in the form of a loan, and with potentially getting 50,000 of that principal forgiven. It's essentially a grant, but you take it in the form of a loan and they forgive principal. And so it's just an opportunity to get a nice coupon there to pay for the emergency generators at the pump stations.
And that's through the EPA, you said?
That's through the Ohio EPA. Yes. Another source we're pursuing on the generators is FEMA has a program, BRIC, BRIC, that it'll be this month or next month. We're looking into that right now. So there's a potential pure grant source for emergency generators as well. So trying to obtain some additional funding.
Yeah, Wes, and I apologize if I missed the beginning of this. So, yeah, the mayor had indicated just the importance of trying to accelerate getting those backup generators in place. Even though this is a part of the larger plan for the wastewater facility upgrade. So if these options don't come through, it's not as if we won't be doing a backup generator. This is just, again, an accelerated way maybe to get some funding.
Sure. Basically, like you said, jumping through a few hoops to get a $50,000 coupon, right?
Right.
I like it. That's a good way to put it. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any other new or unfinished business for the committee?
Oh, I think the street cleaning went well, from what I saw. I got a lot of good feedback from people. Some people did forget about their cars. So there was some feedback if there was a way, maybe we could put in paper signs someplace. Just even though Facebook, social media did work, it was a great campaign, and it got, I bet you, 90% of the cars off the road. There were still some that forgot. I almost forgot had I not seen them, but yeah. But I mean, if we could somehow get, even at the beginning of the front of the neighborhood
Yeah.
or something, just a little reminder, car off the street today.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you for that. We did also try to reach out to the HOAs and see if they could be pushing it out as well. I mean, I don't know that,
Ours did.
Oh, yeah, ours did a
well,
great
that's
job.
wonderful.
Ours did a
Okay.
great job at it.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, we will be doing this one more time this year after the leaf pickup. So,
Great.
yeah, let's add that.
Put it on myself. All right. If nobody has anything else, I will motion to adjourn.
Second?
Roll call.
Dan Capel,
Yes.
John Gurney,
Yes.
Marie Knapp.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.